So hi, I'm Paulette Akers. I'm the director of the Division of Conservation, and we wanted to tell you all a little bit about the division and what we do. I'm glad Alan went first because it is a great intro to the division. We sort of share a lot of things, so if you have any question about either of them, you can let either of us know. So the Division of Conservation is rather small in terms of most divisions you're probably aware of. We have a total of 14 staff members. There are 7 in the central office of Frankfurt and 7 out in the field. As Alan mentioned, we do serve the 121 conservation districts, the 847 elected district supervisors. We do have a 9-member Soil and Water Conservation Commission. They are made up of 1 supervisor from each of 9 areas around the state. And we also work with the 16 members of the Ag Water Quality Authority. I wanted to show you this map. This is where our field representatives serve. So if you need information about the field rep in your area, feel free to contact me. I will have my information at the end here. But this shows you a little bit about how large the area is that each of them work in. Ag Water Quality Act is something I hope you all know about. It is actually a statute that went into effect in July of 1994. And it said every farm or forestry operation that has 10 or more acres has to have a plan about how they'll protect water quality. It did give them 5 years after the development of the statewide plan to get this in place, but everybody ought to have one now. Everybody ought to have one now. So this plan includes their best management practices and anything that they're going to do that protects water quality. Those statutes also establish the Kentucky Ag Water Quality Authority. The authority, excuse me, is a multidisciplinary group. It has members from almost every ag-related organization in the state. I'm sorry, my son mowed the yard and it's getting to me today. This includes UK College of Agriculture, Department of Ag, public health, because a lot of farms actually have septic systems. NRCS, FSA from the federal groups. We work with other people that aren't included in here, like USGS or Governor's Office of Ag Policy. They're often at these meetings, although they don't sit on the authority. So we know when people have plans because if they come in to apply for state cost share, or if they're applying for CAPE funds, the County Ag Investment Program, that's the funds that comes from the Governor's Office of Ag Policy. When they come to apply for those funds, most of the time at their local conservation district, that's when they'll get asked, do you have a ag water quality plan? Have you updated it recently? And so we don't review those. We don't get them in at the state. We don't have copies of them, anything like that right now. This is just something the farmer has in his possession. That is the way he has implemented or she has implemented practices on their personal property. It is the list that includes every component of the farm. So it includes livestock management, how they're going to handle manure, if they have leftover feed even, so like distiller's grain may be included in that, how they're going to manage lagoons, what they're going to do with their pesticides, how they're going to manage runoff from crop fields, how they're going to manage replanting of trees or timber harvesting, setbacks around sinkholes. The farmstead section includes solid waste. It includes those septic tanks, but it also includes things like water harvesting. We try and cover everything that would happen on a farm. And all these plans should be up to date with what practices are going on currently in your on your property. You might get inspected by Division of Water. Generally, that's because you either have a permit because you have a lagoon, something like that, or if you have a disgruntled neighbor, sometimes they call and a Division of Water inspector will come out and visit you. And they're going to ask, can I see a copy of your plan? And they will probably tell you to redo it if your plan is from 1996 and it doesn't include the way you're currently managing your farm. So a little bit more about the cost share program. It was established in 1994 and the funds come from the Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement. As Alan said, we have $2.5 million coming in the next fiscal year. We provide a 75% cost share. It's reimbursement, so they do have to pay the money up front. Right now, the cap is $7,500 for most practices. There is another little caveat there that if they're doing an animal waste storage structure, those are larger and they can be funded up to $20,000. But I put a little star here to tell you all that we are applying for that cap to be raised to $20,000 for all practices. So that will enable some people to get a little bit more expensive practice and have less money out of their own pockets. We do generally get about $4 or $5 million. We used to get $10 million, but because of the rate of failure or people saying they want the funds and then changing their mind and things like that, we have been able to give out $4.5 million in each funding cycle last year, and we actually funded the 19 and the 20 both in last calendar year. So we were able to give out just over $9 million to over 1,400 people to fund projects on their farm. A lot of the time you want to know where these are. So this is a map of where the F119 approved projects are. And if it helps, we actually approved the FY17 and FY18 projects in the year prior to this. So we did 4 funding cycles in 24 months, which is really close. And so we actually won't have another one until November. So some of the areas like here, Woodford County is pretty light. It's because they're 18, they had more projects funded at that point. And here is the 20. Again, you can see that if you know much about Kentucky, the area sort of south central is the area that has more livestock and it tends to be darker. And then we get into the more row crop practices the further west you go. Here is a map with all of the cost share we have ever done. You can see the state is pretty well covered except for the more urban areas and eastern Kentucky, where they just have fewer farms. So that is all I had. Do you all have any questions?